Hello there, it's the great and glorious, soon to be famous, one day Nick Dutch back on the camera again one more time. And that's right, I have not had a beard trim or a shave today, partially because I work for myself and therefore my boss doesn't always care what I look like so long as I get the job done. I'm just going to continue on the theme that I've been doing recently about psychic perception sensations, which is, I think it's turning out to be quite a cool little mini-series of stuff. Because it would be nice to try and reach a point whereby I can classify and, as far as I can, quantify and qualify these incredibly subjective personal experiences that I get, which are very geared towards, just sensations and perceptions that I get when I'm doing things like my readings. It's very difficult to pin this stuff down to specifics, but I suppose it still has to be done. Primarily because psychic beliefs out there are so big and so predominant that there's just too many myths, and one of the many problems is that some people don't want you to come closer to the truth. What they want you to do is to follow the belief interpretation that they have within their little cult or little religion. So they will give you an interpretation of the truth which has been heavily slanted by, let's say, a belief in aliens or a belief in certain pagan traditions. And that's where any truth can actually get blurred. There are different groups of beliefs within the New Age world, and people seem to control what they say and how they explain things in accordance with the limitations which are imposed by their beliefs and the beliefs that especially they want you to have. So someone who is heavily involved in a religious or a spiritual path that believes in karma would tell you that you actually won't be able to do a certain thing because it would be karmically wrong, and therefore the gods will try and stop you, or if you mix systems it won't work because that will make your magic impure. And in the first case, that's an escape clause. Karma is just used as an escape clause. Because these are people who say things like magic works. So you say, well, why don't you go to a hospital and go around curing people of cancer then? And they'll say, no, it doesn't work like that. Or they would say, no, I'm afraid for my karma. But these are the same people who would eulogize about magic and say it's the art and science of causing change to occur in conformity with the will, which would therefore presuppose that they will be taking a scientific and an artistic attitude towards the subject, but unfortunately they have not. Which is still a very big bone of contention for me and a major source of frustration in so many different ways and on so many different levels. It makes me angry. And when you ask people, well, what is your evidence for you to say that your magic actually works? If you're saying that, I can't do some things because the gods won't like it, or I can't do other things because of karma. What is your evidence or personal experiences that might have presupposed that what you're talking about has some kind of validity? And they would then mention a personal experience or a strange experience. So the only thing that's actually real, so far as we can roughly tell, is the strange experience or the weird experience or the personal experience. That's it. And all the stuff about gods, angels, karma, all that stuff, shove it out the window, because that's like religion and that's dogma, which they're trying to make you follow so they can try and turn you into one of them. And is that necessarily what you want to achieve when you're trying to experiment with and investigate the occult? No. Really, no. I don't think that there is anyone, if they're truly honest, right, who tries to get involved with anything of a paranormal or a supernatural nature, who is not interested in results. Alright, whether that result is just a strange experience, or whether that result is, I don't know, going around curing cancer or whatever. Thereafter, a result of one form or another. I mean, there's the other interpretation of the word, and that is to basically just do religion so that you can change and grow up and all the rest of that, which is fine. But screw that if what you're interested in is trying to get a result. So the only thing that we can tell you is, number one, the traditions that some people have used, or the methods that some people have used to attempt to generate a strange experience. And number two, the anecdotal strange experiences that we've had. That's it. Which becomes difficult, because you probably want something a little more concrete, and there isn't anything more concrete. So you may be feeling like I do, and that is a bit frustrated and a bit pissed off, especially with the search for the elusive science of controlling the supernatural. So, which particular tradition am I going to tell you about today? It's the traditions that have been created, as all traditions are created by some person or some organisation or something, alright, by Barbara Ann Brennan. I mean, you could just try and see all these various traditions or ideas as just suggestions. That would be the best way, really. Okay, it's not concrete, it's malleable, and everything is up for you to experiment and explore with. But Barbara Ann Brennan, in some of her spiritual healing books, wrote about using the emotion of memory. And I can't remember whether it was in Light Emerging or Hands of Light or something like that. She said you should take a mental note of what it feels like to remember something, and what the emotion that you're in actually is. And then when you're in your meditation or in your prayerful state, try and get into that state of mind, so that you can then scroll backwards and scroll forwards, and eventually try and learn how to, as it were, remember the future as you start to scroll forward. It's a very peculiar sensation. So the way I have been practicing this, and yeah, it's all a bit, it's hit and miss, it's weird heebie-jeebie stuff, okay? The way I've been practicing this is to try and use an artificial structure or symbology of sorts to represent time. Obviously we've already got some already in place. There's the days, as in from sunrise to sunset and sunset to sunrise again. There's also the weeks, and there's the months. And then you got the seasons, and of course in the Wiccan religion you got the 8 fire festivals, 8 fire festivals around the year. So essentially those are extra ways of thinking about time and considering the year as being cyclical. When I'm trying to read on a situation, when I'm trying to look into a situation, either for myself or for my clients, I try and I don't see time as being linear. I don't experience it in that way. Not because time either is linear or it's not linear, it doesn't really matter. But I visualize and sense it as if it is cyclical. And then I try and look, let's say up to 3 months, and I try and remember, as it were, how it feels up to 3 months, and see if there's any very slight, subtle change in the thoughts or feelings I have, or just the emotions I have, or something tactile, or seemingly, a sensation of sorts, which could happen as I'm sort of scrolling forward, and see how that goes. If I'm doing it with tarot, I may lay out the cards to symbolize the time, the period of a year, and I could use 8 cards, one for each of the sort of stations of the 8 fire festivals around the year. Now, all these festivals are made up. They're made up stations of the year, but they fit sort of more or less mathematically around the wheel of the year. So you might as well use it. All these things are just made up. So use made up stuff in a manner which seems to make sense, and learning a way which seems to make sense for yourself is difficult. There's nothing which is too rigid and solid. If people carry on going at you like, well, you got to do the actual technique, or the actual technique is this, the actual technique is that. There isn't any actual technique. There's just suggestions from someone who says that they've tried to achieve something and they've had a weird experience. That's all we've got. So play with it and see if that can help. But it only seems to happen when you're either in this sort of like conversation with someone who you got a good rapport with, or if you're doing like a meditation type exercise and you're actually in a meditative state of mind, or you're in a prayerful religious state of mind, or something along those lines. And it is so difficult for me to pin down precisely, because I don't think there is a precise singular mathematical technique. It's not like using my mobile phone. When you press the buttons in a certain order, you will magically be directed through to the right person. Alright, it's not quite that solid. And that's why I say that all of this weird heebie-jeebie stuff is an experimental, experiential art form, and it's not quite as scientific as some people would try and make you believe. But I think they make you believe it, or they try and make you believe it, so that you adhere to their way of thinking, so that they have then controlled you. And I personally think that's a bit dubious. Just a few more thoughts from the crazy mind of Nick Dutch for today. Speak to you in a while. Bye for now.